Very good evening, friends. Thank you so much for joining today this evening. Uh, this will be our first event for the year 2022, and I hope all of you are doing well, safe. You and your family are all doing safe and well, and wish everyone a happy. I'm sure that 2022 is going to be much better than the last 2 years that we have gone through. Uh, it's promising. And we start with our first event for 2022 with Hemant Rustagi. Hemant has been a dear friend for years together. I can only tell you first, before I start reading all his achievements, he is one of the most respected, and he's a wonderful human being first, always there for people, for everyone when he needs him. And thank you, Hemant, for accepting this offer and being there for all our FIFA members here. Sangeeta joins us. Sangeeta, hi.
Hi.
So Hemant is a veteran in the area of mutual funds and personal finance. After having been a part of the mutual fund industry for around 16 years, he promoted Wise Invest Private Limited, which is one of the leading mutual fund firms, distribution firms in the country today. I think this is the most important highlight that I want to read here is his core strength is through understanding of the mutual fund industry, ability to foresee emerging trends in the personal finance and changing needs of various segments of investors. During his tenure with mutual fund industry, he led teams that set up, established 3 multinational fund houses, was actively involved with AMFI in the area of research and registration of distributors. He regularly appears on top business channels as mutual fund and personal finance expert, and also contributes articles regularly in several financial and mainline dailies, as well as the magazines. More than 1,200 of his articles have been published in various publications till date. He is a regular invitee to speak at various mutual fund industry events, which you must have heard and seen over the years. And today we have him again here to share, saying that how can you scale up your business, and no one else than Hemant who can help us and give you a perspective about it. Thank you so much, Hemant, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Rupa, for the lovely introduction. And really, I'm so happy and honored to be here and sharing my experiences and what I think can help mutual fund distributors in scaling up the business. So thank you so much for inviting me for this talk. Let me okay, so I am going to be speaking about how to scale up your business. This is an important topic for everyone, because all of us who are in the business of distribution want to make sure that our businesses grow over a period of time. Many of us may have tried with varying degree of success. Many of us may be in the process of doing it, and many may have tried and may be not so successful. So I would love to share my experiences and what I think is the right way for us to scale up the business. So, before we talk about how to do it, what all it takes to, make sure that you're able to scale up your business, let's first understand what is scaling means. What exactly is scaling when we talk about scaling up our business? Scaling up is different from growth. I think this is very, very important for all of us to understand, even though many a times we use these terms growth and scaling up interchangeably, but there is a difference in both. While the objective of both is obviously to make the business grow, but the manner in which the growth happens is the basic difference here. So when we talk about growth, I think all of us may have gone to this stage at a different level. You start your business, you have few clients, you kind of go around, talk to your friends, relatives, acquaintances, neighbors. Try to build up your base for investors. So you're growing. You're growing in terms of number of clients. You're growing in terms of assets that you manage. Then you reach a stage where you feel that you find it difficult to decide whether you should focus on clients, whether you should focus on administration. So the time comes when you say that, okay, I think I need some helping hand. Maybe you hire somebody in the back office. Then the time comes that you start looking around and say, okay, you kind of increase your clients further. And then you feel the need to maybe hire somebody to help you out. There's always the apprehension whether I should do it or not do it, because whether this person will take away my business. But the fact is, if you want to grow, you hire somebody. And what happens when you're growing in this level, in this manner, you realize that your AUM has gone up, your income has gone up, but so have your expenses also, maybe in the same proportion. So at the end of the day, maybe you don't get to keep too much. Second thing, what happens is that you actually reach a stage after some time that you say that, okay, I have exhausted all my sources that I had. I have kind of spoken to my friends, my relatives. I have even got some referral from the client, and then I don't know what to do. Okay, so you reach a stage, I won't say which is a dead end, but definitely a stage where you find that the growth becomes a little erratic, and you struggle to really see how to grow from there. So that's growth. So you've grown, but so have the challenges, so has your cost. So then comes the scaling up. So what is scaling up? If you want to move out of the universe that you've been operating in, you go to the next level, which is what is called scaling up. So what do? You actually create a framework that allows you to grow. So which means that if you want your growth not to be erratic the way it has been in the growth phase, you want this growth to be planned, you want this growth to be sustainable, you want this planned growth to be inclusive, where everyone in the organization is participating in that. And if you want your growth to be measured, you need to scale up. So what happens is everything is planned. It's happening by planning. It's not happening by default. Second thing it does for you is, as I mentioned, in the growth stage, your costs continue to go up. Here also the costs will go up. You have to commit certain resources, but it happens in a manner that you kind of develop abilities to grow your business in a manner that your cost remains kind of stable. So you are able to handle larger volumes. Okay, your cost does not go up at every level that you reach in terms of scaling up. So that's the basic difference. The growth can be erratic, can be unplanned, can be by luck at times, but scaling up is something where you plan. And the most important thing, as I mentioned, is that you move out of the circle that you're operating in. You create a situation where you want the clients to come to you, because there is always a limitation as to how many clients are you going to reach out to. That's what actually is what is called scaling up. How do you do the scaling up? You need to build capacities and capabilities. Okay, it doesn't happen on its own. It doesn't happen just by thinking that, okay, I want to move to the next level. You need to build capacities and you need to build capabilities. So let me just focus first on capabilities. What are we talking about? You need to commit resources. You need to make sure that you have system and processes. You need to make sure that you adopt technology. You need to do some sort of branding, maybe at different level, depending on your ability to do that. All this I'm going to discuss in detail in my later part in my presentation, but this is what you need to develop. You need to delegate, which is very, very important if you want to really scale up. In terms of capacity, basically, you need to make sure that you have the infrastructure. And of course, you have to create a team. Now, the question comes that we talked about in the growth phase, my cost is going up. And we said in the scaling up, the cost becomes stable. Here, we are talking about doing so many things, which means that I need to commit a lot of resources. I need to spend a lot of money. Of course, by all means, you need to spend money, but you need to spend money at a certain stage for creating that framework. And the manner in which work is, it improves your capacity to handle larger volumes in a manner that your, I would say, per client cost of servicing and acquiring continues to remain stable or even go down over a period of time. That's the basic difference in growth and scaling up. So starting is easier. I'm sure all of us have gone through a phase that we know that, okay, we start and see how it goes from there. But scaling up is harder because it involves you to create that framework. It involves you to do a lot of work in the beginning. But the good thing is that it's achievable. If you do it in the right manner, if you do it at the right stage, it can do wonders for your business growth. And this is what we are going to see how it happens. So before we talk about how you lay foundation for this scaling up, or how do you achieve scaling up, I think it's also very important to understand what are those things that can stop you from scaling up. Look, when you're trying to scale up your business, there are always challenges. Some challenges will come unannounced, some are known. So you need to be prepared to tackle both. But I think it helps a lot if you know about at least certain things, which can be the pitfalls, basically, which can really, kind of derail your process of scaling up. So let's look at what are these. Some are related to ourselves as a promoter, and some are related to some external factors. First thing is your action should, match your aspirations. And if they don't, you will find scaling a bit difficult. What I mean by that, if you are one of those MFD who wants to grow, okay, but are not willing to take risk, are not willing to commit resources, are not willing to wait out for a slightly longer period for your business to scale up, it is going to be hard, because you will require to then change tracks in many places. And the moment you do that, you will not see the kind of scale up that you should be looking at. Now, here I would say, we need to basically implement or practice what we propagate. See what happens when you talk to a client who has never invested in the mutual fund. I'm talking about a conservative investor. What do we go and tell the investor? Hey, look, you need to move out of traditional options. You need to look at market linked products, to look at equity. There is going to be some amount of risk. Fortunately, there are strategies which can help you reduce the risk. How do you do that? To take a long-term view, right? You become a disciplined investor. So exactly the same thing we need to do in our business. If you have aspiration to grow, if you want to scale up your business, you should be able to take some amount of risk. You need to be mentally prepared for that. You need to commit resources. You need to remain committed to what you're doing. So when we talk about, telling investors that you need to remain committed to your time horizon, it's exactly the same thing we need to do. If you practice what we preach to the client, it becomes much more easier for us to scale up. If you are someone who's stuck in the everyday routine, you're going to find it difficult to scale up. Now, what happens is, I talked about the initial stages of growth. When you're alone, then you kind of bring your team in, but you are so involved in your routine. Even when you hire a team, many times what we see is we are still involved in the routine because we don't feel confident about the ability of people around us to be able to do things for us. So while you have incurred expenses, while your costs have gone up, you're still not benefiting because you're still involved in the routine. And when you're involved in the routine, either you will not have kind of time to look at how to scale up, or you want to grow, or you will make it difficult for yourself to scale up your business. So I think it's very, very important that if you want to grow, you need to kind of let go certain things. You need to feel confident about it. You need to make sure that you look beyond your daily routine. Only in that case, you can achieve any kind of scaling. If you do not have a wider horizon, it becomes very difficult to scaling. So what it means is that you need to create an environment in the organization that you have built. You need to make sure that everyone knows about how you want to take it forward. You need to have a wider horizon in terms of what are the products you'll be looking at, whether it's going to be only mutual fund, whether it's going to be some other product, how much role each of these products are going to play in your growth. So you must make sure that your aspirations match your actions. You should not be stuck with a daily routine. You need to have a wider horizon to take your practice to the next level. If you are someone who wants result in a year or two, you may find scaling a bit difficult. Scaling is a process that can be a little long drawn one. Will test your patient perseverance at times. There will be challenges I mentioned earlier. So if you cannot expect result to happen, you might see improvement happening in the first year itself, maybe, but it won't be a stage where you ultimately want to be. So you must have the patience. Do not expect results to happen in 1 or 2 years. This is very, very important, because the last thing you want is that you want the results to happen in a hurry. And if you don't see that happening, then you are making changes or changing tracks. That can be a disaster in your efforts to scale up. Now, the point is, What else can come in the way? It is you believe that just by increasing team, you can scale up. I briefly explained to you what all you need to do to scale up. You need to build capacities, capabilities. Yes, of course, you will need a team to build your business, to take it to the next level, but that alone cannot ensure. So don't make the mistake of thinking that, okay, I'll do one thing, I'll have 3 or 4 or 5 people, I'll have a larger team. But the bigger question would be, how will that business come? How will the business be more sustainable? How will it be planned? So there are a lot of things that you need to do rather than just looking at increasing your team. So don't just avoid this mistake. You need to build up team, but build up team in a phased manner. Another challenge that we face is that we believe that only qualified staff can help us scale. Yes, there is no doubt about the fact that when you want to grow, there is always a feeling that if I can get some experienced people, they can reduce my burden, they can help me in getting more clients, they will make sure that the back office works very smoothly. There is obviously no doubt, because many promoters always feel that it makes sense to hire people who are smarter than you. But the fact is, this can also be challenging. People who come with the experience have their own aspirations. They may or may not be very comfortable working with you at that phase of your growth, where they're not very sure which direction it will go. Right. At the same time, people come with the preconceived notion, the way they have been working in the past organization. If you have a different thought process, it becomes very difficult to align them to your thought process. So what do you do in that case? I think you need to be open to look at people who may not have experience. Yes, it will involve some amount of hard work. You need to kind of get involved. You need to spend time with them. You need to train them. But the biggest advantage of that is that you can actually mold them the way you want things to happen in your organization. I can share an example of what we have done. We have a team of around 45 people, barring 2 of my colleagues who are from UTI. Everyone else in the team was totally new to the mutual fund. Okay, we spend a lot of time. I personally spend a lot of time because it's very important to share with them what you aspire to do. What are your principles that only you want to work in. So, for example, if your principle is always client first, then it has to percolate down to everybody's level. So do not allow this to come in the way of your growth just because you're not able to hire qualified people. Trust me, what you need is people with some amount of passion, people with some amount of feeling that they want to grow in life. And if you provide them that career path, there is no reason that why they will not work and help you scale up your business. So now that we know that these are some of the things that we need to really focus on to make sure that they don't come in the way of your effort of scaling up your business. The next point is that before you actually get down to what exactly you need to do, you need to lay the foundation to support your scaling up efforts. Now, what does that mean? First and foremost, focus. It's very, very important that we really focus on what is that you want to achieve. Everyone in the team must have the focus because many a times this is where we go wrong. For example, when you're in the process of building your business, you discuss with so many people. There are so many ideas that will be given to you. People will say, do this, and somebody else will say, do this. There is always a temptation to try different things. But that can be a disaster. I think you need to resist the temptation of trying too many things. The second thing that we do is we look at experienced mutual fund distributors or others who are operating in different areas, and we get to know, okay, this is what they have done, they have been successful. The question that comes is that if they can be successful, why I can't be successful in doing this? Look, yes, it is always good to keep track of what others are doing because you learn a lot from experienced people. You learn a lot from people who are innovating, trying different ways of reaching out to the clients, and they're successful. It's good to track that. But all of us know our strengths and weaknesses. It's very important to understand because no one else will understand your strengths and weaknesses better than anybody else. So what you need to do is see that whether it will work in your system. You just don't blindly go and follow what others are doing because that is where things can go wrong. Another thing where your focus will be tested is, when you're trying to scale up, even the small, I would say deficiency in the system will get magnified. There is always a temptation to change track. Never do that. Never do that. All of us make mistakes. Things will go wrong. It does not matter. Figure out how things went wrong. Figure out what is the right way of, bringing it back on track rather than just changing track every now and then. So this can be very, very difficult. So I would say that if I need to sum it up, why you need to have focus is that while you require a broader vision for your business to grow, as I mentioned earlier, your focus has to be very narrow. Trust me, if you have a narrow focus, you're very sure about what you want to do, your success rate will be much, much higher than somebody who's trying too many different things. So keep your focus. The second is align. Make sure that you remain aligned to where your focus areas are. Also make sure that everyone in the team is aligned to what needs to be done. This can be challenging. This is a very, very challenging aspect of scaling up, but this is something that you must do. This is something that you must make an attempt to make sure that everyone in the organization is aligned to what needs to be done. So what happens with that is that you will see the overall efficiency of the organization will, your overall efficiency of the organization will go up. Things will happen much faster. You will see that the team is very motivated. So you will see the efforts going in one direction. So this is something that we need to be very clear. The next one is organize. Now, if you want to make sure that all your efforts are pooled and going in one direction, you need to organize things. Okay, while it's good to have focus, while it's good to ensure that everyone is aligned to what you want to achieve, it's very, very important that you organize things in a manner that everyone has clarity in what their role is, up to what extent they need to kind of play a role, then somebody else will take over. So these are things that you need to really ensure that you organize things in a manner that there is complete clarity. Delegate, you must delegate. I mentioned earlier that one of the things that you're required to do is to delegate if you really want to scale up your business. Now, one of the basic purpose of scaling up is that things should happen in a smooth manner. You are dependent, basically, the business should not be totally dependent on you, at least for certain activities. Maybe it's not possible to kind of eliminate that completely, but attempt should be to reduce it to the extent it is possible. And that can only happen if you delegate. So there are two things that you can delegate. One is you can delegate the task, and the second one is you can delegate the responsibility. The problem is that if you only delegate the task, the team will attempt to do whatever you want them to do to the best of their ability, maybe with varying degree of success. But the problem with that is that if you're only delegating the task, you will see that they play a very limited role in the organization. Whereas if you delegate the responsibilities also, you will find them participating in the whole process more actively. At times, you will be surprised to see that even the youngsters in the team will come out with some certain great ideas. And if you're open to accept them, you will see that, it will really improve the efficiency of the organization, because let's not forget that these are the people who are working on the ground. They are the ones who know whether things are working or not working. So you delegate tasks, you also delegate responsibility. But there are a couple of other major advantages of when you delegate. One is when you start the process of delegating, it helps you to build organization structure, which is very, very important when you're talking about scaling up. The organization must have a structure, and the process of delegation definitely helps. The second advantage of that is it helps you identifying who are the leaders, who can be the future leaders. Because look, when you're delegating the task and the responsibilities, you will see people performing, you will see people have vision, you will see people have clarity of thought. For any organization to grow, you need certain pillars, and these pillars are these leaders at different level. You cannot just have leaders at the top. You need to have leaders at different levels in the organization. So I think delegation is absolutely important if you want to make sure that your business becomes more sustainable. Another important thing, in fact, I would say, when we talk about delegate, do not try to micromanage. Okay, once you have decided to delegate, allow things to happen. Of course, by all means, keep a track on what is happening, but it does not mean that you start doing micromanagement, because the moment you start doing micromanagement, the whole objective or the purpose of delegating responsibility and task will come to an end. The next one is you need to automate. It's absolutely important. If you want efficiency to improve, if you want the standard of client servicing to improve, if you want the response time for whatever the clients need to improve, you need to automate, and also helps you in reducing the cost over a period. And we know that the expectation of client nowadays is ever expanding. So I think it's very, very important that you focus on automating. And how do we do that is something that I'm going to discuss in the subsequent slides. But now we can see that what are things that we need to do to make sure that our endeavor to scale up, okay, delivers the kind of result we are expecting from them. You need to focus. You need to make sure that everyone in the organization is aligned. You need to organize things in a manner that there is complete clarity. You need to delegate tasks as well as responsibilities so that people can participate more in this process. And you need to automate to improve the service standards. So let's come to how to scale. First and foremost, I would say you need to have a scale-up mindset. Look, any amount of effort that you may put in, but unless and until you have a scale-up mindset, you will find it difficult to get to the next level. We talked about certain things that your action should match your aspirations, right? You must have a mindset of someone who is a leader, who want to lead the effort of taking the organization to a different level. Your mindset will reflect in the mindset of people working with you as your team. So have a broader vision, like I said, but have a narrow focus, have a clear mindset as to what is that you want to achieve, at what level you want to take your company. This is something that is going to really, really be helpful. You need to create infrastructure. I mentioned about creating a team, ensuring that you have premises, you have IT systems, and you have also tried to develop extra capacity, because if you require it in the near future, then you don't want to restart the process all over again. So this is something that is very, very important, that you create an infrastructure, because while you're scaling up, you're trying to build a framework, okay, where things happen on its own. And that is absolutely necessary, that you create the infrastructure which can help you in doing this. Create a team. Of course, without team, you can't achieve anything. We have discussed some aspects, some challenges in trying to create a team there. But I think there is also, apart from that, a couple of things where we need to really focus. And that, obviously, the most important part of that is, how do you reward your team members? I think this is something that is very, very important, because if you want a team which is happy, which can contribute to your efforts of scaling up, which can get you the desired results, it's very, very important that you have a different thought process here. You need to look beyond a commission-based model. Many a time there are models being followed where some basic salary is given, and then it is said that, okay, this is your target, achieve the target, and you get to share the commission that we get. While it's all understandable as from the promoter point of view, that, okay, you get me the business and take the money. But I think it's very important to understand the aspirations of people who are working with you. Look, we are in a business or in a profession or in where things can be erratic, depending on the markets, depending on so many factors. It's always very challenging to kind of get new clients. It's never easy to start getting clients from day one. You need to make sure that there is a clear career path for everyone in the team, whether it's professionally or whether it's financially. It doesn't mean that you compromise on what they do or what they don't do. But what I'm trying to say is that you need to make sure that they continue to get something every year. They continue to get to a level where they are financially secure. They're not thinking about this all the time, whether I'm going to get the business this month or not. If I don't get, but that can be very disturbing, and that can derail your whole process. So I think it's important to understand that you need to have a committed team with you. Two things that work. One, give them a career path professionally, give them some kind of security in terms of financial security, and which means that we all have to learn to share. It's very, very important, because look, this is a business that you're building with your team. Okay, you obviously remain the face of the business. You remain the guiding force for the business, but people at different level contribute in their own capacity. I think we need to understand that. We need to reward that, and trust me, a stable team can do wonders for you, because when they're dealing with the clients are happy that, okay, the same person is coming for so many years with me. The clients love stability. Okay, and one of the challenges that everybody faces is that how can we bring stability in a relationship with the client? And a stable team, a happy team, a committed team can do wonders for us. So I think it's important to kind of look at these things a little differently. We talked about building system and processes.
Hemant, I think in the last slide, the last line was not legible. So that's what there is a message saying that. So maybe if you can.
Is it okay?
No. So if you can just we have to condense it a little bit.
Are we talking about creating a team?
See, yeah, I can only read look beyond commission-based model. Below that, there is a line.
It says learn to share.
Learn to share. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
like I mentioned that we all need to learn to share.
I think you need to reduce your PPT size or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then we talk about building system and processes. Now, if you want to create that framework for scale up or go to the next level, this is absolutely important activity, because what we want is the efficiency to go up, remain constant. And as we talked about, reaching out to the client, ensuring that they get what they want in time. Systems and processes are very important. Without that, scaling up just does not happen. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about 2 or 3 different, important activities that happen in our business. One is obviously the client servicing, then we have application processing, then we also have execution. That's execution department or distribution department working there. Now, let me just give you an example of what I mean by developing system and processes. Now, for example, if you look at the distribution side, it's very important for you to decide or categorize the clients, saying, okay, these are the clients to be met on a monthly basis. These are the clients to be met on quarterly basis. These are the clients to be met on half-yearly basis, or some such interval depending on the kind of clients you have. Now, once you have decided that, okay, they need to be met at this level, the RMs have to be very clear in terms of how this meeting should be conducted. What are the things that needs to be discussed? There has to be a system where the feedback that you get from the client is being assessed by somebody. If there are some adverse comment, the action is taken. You go back to the client and try to address that issue. So, and then also one has to clearly look at whether the clients have been met on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis or not, because 2 things happen here. One is that you are meeting the clients regularly, you're keeping the contact with the client. Second thing is you have internal controls which are ensuring that there is no slip up anywhere. Third thing is that if there is any feedback from the client, okay, then you can take action immediately. So on the distribution side, then look at the client servicing side, for example, you need to set service standards. What are the service standards that you can set? That, okay, if once the request comes from the client, we get different kind of client servicing requests, how much time maximum we can take to forward it to the mutual fund house. So that the second is how much time we allow fund house to kind of redress that or address that. If that doesn't happen, what kind of follow-up is required? Okay. Third is once the service request gets completed, do we go back to the client, intimate the client, or we just rely on the mutual funds to inform the client directly? We need to do that. So once you build up these processes, you will see that your dependence on the business will go down. Second, things will happen on its own. Third thing is that you have controls at different level to make sure that there are no slip-ups. I can share our example. What I have done is that I've actually hired a CA firm to do internal audit for us on a concurrent basis. Of course, it has been a bit difficult, obviously, to do it during the pandemic. So we have now identified a couple of guys within the team who do this. It's important to ensure that you have systems and you make sure that they are being followed by everyone, because that's the key for if you want to really scale up your business. Without this, it's not going to happen. The last thing you want is the chaotic situation that you see when you're only focusing on growth. You don't want the same thing to happen when you're trying to scale up. Adopt technology. It's very, very important. Today, we are fortunate that there are a number of platforms that you have where you can ask your clients to do digital transactions. You know that there are NSE, BSC, and there is also MF utility. You can allow clients to transact through your website. You can develop your own app and allow people to transact. This is exactly what we did 3-4 years ago. We developed our own app, and today a significant number of transactions are happening through that. So I think what technology does for you is it speeds up the whole process. Okay, it ensures that there are no mistakes. It reduces the burden on the back office, and of course, your involvement in this part of the business goes away completely, and your clients have access to the information 24 hours, anytime they want to see, because there are times when, over the weekend, the client wants to look at the portfolio, and all these, technology that you use allows them to have access at whenever they want to have it. So it's very, very important for us to adopt technology if you want to really scale up. You must have a referral strategy. I think one of the key factors for us to go to the next level is, as I mentioned earlier also, that you need to figure out ways where the clients reach out to you, or you develop a mechanism that, people are being referred to you, because after a certain scale or level, it becomes very, very difficult for you to reach out to the clients. And that's where you hit that, the level where you can't grow from there. So many a times we know that we all understand what referrals are. We all know how important the referrals are and how easy it is to convert people who are referred to you. But unfortunately, many a times we don't have a strategy. The strategy should be that at what stage do we ask for referral? The last thing you want is somebody in your team going and asking the client within a week of his coming in, working with you, saying, give me a referral. You don't want to embarrass the client. You want to utilize that confidence that you have built with the client, the relationship that you have built with the client, so that the referral comes in a very systematic manner. And you must have a process that once the referral is come, how has the relationship manager or whosoever is responsible for handling it, they've handled it. What happens to each of the referrals that has come your way? Because the easiest way for you to scale up your business, to grow, is to get referrals. And once it can be challenging to get those referrals. But once you get them, the last thing you want is that you've not been able to convert them into clients. So it's very, very important that you have a referral strategy. Now, there are 3 ways. Normally, when we talk about referral, we say that, okay, we get referrals from the clients. But there are more than one ways you get referrals. The first one is you get experience-based referral. Who are the people having experience of your service? Your clients. So we all know that the clients are giving the referral, so which is what we call the experience-based referral. That's where your system and processes, that's where the use of technology, that's where, as I said earlier, that if you automate, you will exceed clients' expectation, at least you will fulfill their expectation, and their needs are always, expectations are ever expanding. So make sure that they're happy with the experience that they have had with you. So once they reach that level, they feel very confident of start giving you referrals. So one, you get experience-based referrals. Then you get specialization-based referrals. Now, I'm going to talk about the need to have a newsletter for you to kind of build a brand. But taking from that, once you start reaching out to people. Now, for example, I can share that we have a newsletter called Wealthwise, and this is published in 2 languages, English and Marathi. It goes to thousands of people. Many a times, so what has happened? We are very consistent in where it goes, what we talk about. We don't talk about marketing any product. Okay, we share views, our views, articles, the views of top fund managers in the country, CIOs, CEOs. So over a period of time, all these guys have realized that, yes, we specialize in mutual funds. Many a times they come back and say, look, we like what you're sending, we like your approach, but we're not in a position to deal with you because we have an existing relationship. We respect that. But trust me, whenever there is an opportunity for them, that any friend of theirs or any relatives or someone known to them is looking for guidance in the mutual fund, they refer those people to us. So once you're able to establish that you are a specialist in whatever you deal with, the relationship that you build through, for example, like I said, through the newsletter, you start getting those referrals. So, and trust me, I have seen for periods where, the referral that we get through the newsletter became the top source for us for getting clients. So it's very, very important that you focus on getting referrals through by projecting yourself as a specialist. Then there is reputation-based referrals. I will talk about branding. When you do branding, that's also your reputation. And through your clients, through the effort that you put in to reach out to people, you build a reputation. And what happens is even that gets you referrals. So there are three sources. You need to expand that universe of referral. Do not restrict yourself to only referral from the client. Try and get referrals from other sources. And trust me, that's an exercise where you need to be consistent. You need to keep putting effort in that. This is not something which is going to happen overnight. It might take a couple of years for you to get there. But I think keep working on it, because then you reach a level where it becomes easier for you to acquire client through source. And whenever we know that, we have tried that and we've tested that when you get clients, when you get referrals, the chances are that very high chances of they converting into becoming your client. So I think it's very, very important to have a referral strategy. The next one is that you need to build a brand. The problem is whenever we talk about building a brand, the first thing that comes to our mind is, oh, this is going to be very expensive exercise. It's very sophisticated. It's very complicated. Second thing, whether I can do that or not. And another thought that comes in our mind many a times is that, do I actually need to build a brand? I'm not so large player. Why should I build a brand? I think let me just focus on these two areas. Let me first explain that the branding is not so complicated anymore. It's not so expensive anymore. It used to be expensive when we used to rely only on the traditional media. Today, we have a number of resources through which we can build the brand by not spending too much amount. So what is brand today? The brand definition has evolved. It's no more a logo. It's no more, putting an ad on the internet. It's no more your, hoarding. It's basically 2-3 things. What brand stands for, what you stand for in terms of your branding. One is that how your clients perceive you. Okay. The second thing is, what is that you promise to your clients? Okay. And third is your reputation. I mentioned that earlier also. So these are 3 things that build brand for you. Okay. Now, as we can see that this is not only about advertisement. This is not only about, this takes time. You reach out to people. Okay. You build confidence. They start perceiving you in a certain manner. That is something that is what your brand is. Second aspect, do I really need branding? Look, we are in a profession where we want to build long-term relationship with every client. And the reason for that is very simple. Once the client comes in, the client remains with you. The investment will continue to grow, right? Keep it for longer period. During this period, the family members will join. He or she start giving you referrals. So we all want the relationship to be on a longer term basis. Now, you cannot have a longer term relationship unless and until you have earned clients' loyalty, right? Unless and until there is a loyalty, client loyalty, it's very, very difficult to take this relationship to such a longer period. And trust me that loyalty comes only when there is an emotional attachment. And that emotional attachment comes from branding. So there are things that we do. We build confidence, okay, how we manage their investments, what is the response time, okay, and trust me, the client may not be very savvy in terms of understanding the technicalities of investment, but everyone is smart enough to see whether you're working for yourself or whether you're working for them. That's what builds brand for you. And that's exactly the reason why each one of us, at whatever level we may be, especially if you aspire to scale up your business, you need to build that brand. So what is that brand does for you? It deepens your awareness. Many a time we also confuse creating awareness with the brand. Yes, creating awareness is very, very important for brand, but brand X is much more than that. It builds emotional attachment with the client. I just shared my views on that. It also gives you an opportunity to show how you're better than others. Look, we are working in an industry which is very competitive, right? Fortunately for us, the industry has been growing at a healthy rate and continue to grow from here also. But the fact is that you need to project how you are a better fit than others and how you're better than others. And that is what branding helps you in doing that. your marketing efforts and the brand complement each other. So there's a slight difference in marketing and branding, but I think they complement each other. Brand marketing is something that basically gets you the attention when you're reaching out to the people, get their attention. But branding is something that allows you to retain their attention. So both have to complement each other. It's not that whether you're doing marketing or branding, you have to do both to get client attention. And last but not the least here is that you need to work on your networking skill. It's very, very important to network with people in the industry, network with people in the other industries, because that's how you get in touch with the leaders from other industries, and that's how you get references, that's how you get endorsement, and that really helps you in building your brand. So building a brand is very, very important activity for us if we aspire to scale up our business. Couple of things I'm sure all of us do, but I will just reiterate that it's very important to launch a website. I think website is very, very important because it allows you to project yourself the way you want to. It allows you to kind of, make sure that the clients look at the way you want them to look at you. You can start with a basic website. Over a period of time, you can make it interactive, allow clients to transact. So that what will happen is they will be aware of what is happening on the portfolio. They can access the information at whatever time they want. And it allows you an opportunity to share a lot of things that you want to share with people. And of course, when you are reaching out to people and people want to look at you for the first time, I think website is the place where they come and visit, and that gives them a clear idea. So you need to be very careful in how you project yourself on your website, but I think consider that as a very, very important source in the brand building exercise. I mentioned about newsletter, which is very, very important. It doesn't have to be an elaborate one, but I think if you really want to project yourself as a specialist or someone, or the reason why people should look at you, you need to have it can be a simple newsletter which you send by email, okay, maybe on a monthly basis, but you need to become a resource. You need to become a source for your client as well as for the prospects. They must, and once you start doing it on a regular basis, they wait for that. So I think it's very, very important, and try to see if you can put your own content. If you can't, there is content which is available, which is allowed to be shared, but you must do some activity through a newsletter, even through the mail, that you reach out to your prospects and clients. It's very, very important that you project yourself as a source for information that they want, and they learn from something from there. And that's what will build trust between you and your prospect and the clients. Social network, we all are aware of this, but I think we need to be a little careful in terms of how we use. For example, if you're operating in a certain area, you don't want to be all over the place. So I think use them. They are very, very effective, but you be careful in terms of how you use it. Do not try to project you as someone which you are not, because the last thing you want is that people come to you and they get disappointed. So very effective in branding, in reaching out to people, in acquiring new clients, but you need to be a little careful in the manner in which you use social network, and create your own media. Fortunately, we are living in an era because we have social network, we have our own website. Today, you can create your own media. Now, we talked about that media, that brand building can be an expensive exercise. Look, today, if you believe in something, and if you believe that you have something to share, you can make your own short video, right? You can post it on your website, you can post it in your Facebook, you can post on Twitter. Today, all these facilities allow you to kind of reach out to people and say what you stand for, why you are a better fit, why you are better than others. So I think we all know that it's not expensive at all. The only thing is you must have a clear idea as to what is that you want to share. Share something which is meaningful. It shouldn't put off people who look at that video. Be very clear about what you want to share. Be very clear about that you have the ability to kind of talk about certain topic which can help. For example, there are so many events which happen. Budget is coming. Recently, we saw market saw a correction. So there are a lot of things which happen, and there are certain events that make investors anxious, nervous. And if you're able to reach out to your client and the prospect that you have been dealing with, or you're trying to kind of convert them into client, that really helps you in building their trust, and then converting them into clients. So broadly, I think these are things that you need to do at different stages, and this can really help you in scale up. I hope that uh, this was useful. I'm ready for the questions if you have any.
Thank you so much, Hemant. And I can't, describe the way that you have put forward with such clarity and with such precise examples, and the way that you could scale up this business. I don't think anyone else would have done as better as you. And I am sure that each one of here on this platform today would have learned a lot. I have learned a lot. It's been like, sometimes you need somebody to reinforce certain things, and it really helps you to reinvent yourself at some point of time, because when you hear things, when you are doing things and when you're hearing things, it's different, but it really works very well. And friends, if you have any questions, please do ask your questions. You can put it on the chat.
So Hemant, can I ask you the first question?
Yeah, sure, Sangeeta.
Okay, so yeah, you just said that you have a team of 45 people. Now, I think in this business of ours, having systems in place is one thing. Scaling up, etc., is one thing. But the most important thing is the team, and keeping team in place is one of the most important thing, because you have, those are our people who go to our clients, meeting clients, etc. Now, how do you build the knowledge level of these people?
Well, I think, Sangeeta, very, very important question. I think I'd love to share my experience in that. Like I mentioned earlier, except for two of our colleagues, everyone else was new. And we know that, learning about mutual fund, learning about client expectation, learning about products is not something that can happen overnight. It's a long drawn process. So we spend a lot of time with them. First thing is to have a theoretical knowledge. Second thing is, having the practical knowledge. And the most important part here is, I tell you, even if you feel confident that you know how to deal with how you have knowledge about the product, it can be very intimidating when you go and sit in front of the client at times. Okay, so for example, what we have been doing, I tell you, I would like to share that with you. That over a period of time, we identify some people and who will do on the marketing side or on the distribution side. Then we identify people at different level, even from the back office, even people who are doing like outdoor duties earlier. Even from there, we have brought people into distribution by ensuring that they pass the exam and then training them. What we do is that we, send these people initially with some senior guy. Okay, so after they have been trained, after they have been told what is to be done, they go with the team, they go and sit with the client, and that really removes the fear. Basically, like I mentioned, it can be intimidating at times to sit in front of the client, especially when you're handling retail clients. Suddenly you're made to handle HNI client. When you're sitting in front of somebody who's a rich guy, who's a very influential guy, it can be very intimidating. So we did that. So the learning has happened over a period of time in a process. The second thing we did was, we have a, I come from mutual fund background, so I have kind of formed an investment committee, which is headed by me and then a couple of senior people and then a couple of people at different level. And those people keep on changing over a period of time. What it does is that they are involved in the process of how do we assess the funds? How do we analyze the funds? Okay, how, for example, the client can ask you a simple question. Okay, we are talking about two different large cap fund, A and B. What is the difference? Unless and until you have a deep knowledge, you're not able to explain. So I made them a part of this process, and they come by rotation here. So I think one, they are trained, they are taught about what mutual funds are, what these products are. Then they sit in the meeting with the senior people. Then they become a part of this process. And we have sessions where we talk about different fund, different strategies. So it's a process which is ongoing. It doesn't stop at certain level. And then we also make sure that people who reach a certain level also take the responsibility to make sure that people who are coming up in that field get trained by them. So it's a process. Like I said, it's not something that you can learn overnight. But yes, by the time you reach a level, it takes time. And then we have a system where things happen on its own, and there is someone who is monitoring as to what kind of progress is being made. And that is what I think has allowed everyone in the team to reach a level where they're quite familiar with the products, they're quite familiar with what happens in the mutual fund, they're quite familiar with what are the expectation of clients. So I think that's why we have been able to build this team. And the most important part is that everyone is playing a crucial role in retaining clients and making sure that clients get to know or get whatever information they want at any point in time.
Do you think it is extremely important, I mean, to have commission-based model for the employees, because there the retention would be much higher than even though you give them all the other benefits of, a friendly environment, family type of an environment, etc.
Well, Sangeeta, look, there are both sides. Let's take an example of what happened in the pandemic, right? You have a period of almost 2 years. I would say that yes, investors have made a lot of money, but at times mobilizing money has also been very, very tough. Yes, I mean, what happens is that SIP book has gone up in the industry, but then you know that to build that SIP book, it takes a lot of time. The last thing you want is, yes, by all means, I'm saying you need to reward them with the effort they're putting. I'm not saying that restricted only to the salary. You give them bonus or give them whatever way. But if their fortune is going to be linked to the business that they do, trust me, it's a very difficult situation. We, even for us, as experienced as ourselves, would find struggle to get business at times, right? So I don't think that will be very comfortable with the employees. Yes, some of them maybe earn more, but you're not looking at some of them. You're looking at team as a whole. So you want to, like I said, make sure that there is a clear path in their growth, even financially. The last thing you want is they're worrying about, okay, how much business I did this month, how much business I did in the last 3 months, what am I going to take home? You don't want a situation like this, then the focus goes. My personal belief is like, look, everyone can build their own structure, but my belief is that it has to go beyond commissions. You have to reward them for what they're doing, but at the same time, you need to make sure that they have aspirations to grow both professionally and financially, and you need to take it. Because there's another way of also assessing how well they're doing, is that what is their contribution in retaining the clients? It's not only about getting the fresh business, it's also about how are they performing in terms of retaining the client. So I think make a mix of both. They should be able to get enough so that they can live comfortably. They don't have to worry about how they're going to meet their expenses every month. So my belief is that it should be a mix of that, rather than saying that, okay, 30-40% will come as a base salary and the rest will come from commission.
Okay. And you made a point that in your organization, your team should be aligned. What do you mean by your team should be aligned?
Yes. You see, what happens is that you may have a vision of doing something, right? You need to make sure that you share with them. They are aligned in the manner they understand what is being achieved here. For example, if you have a philosophy of client first, what does it mean? That it doesn't matter, even if you have to focus on business, don't try to miss-sell, don't try to do something aggressive selling. Do it what is in the best interest of the client, right? They need to be aligned with this thought. Otherwise, this will remain just a thought in your mind. You will not be able to implement that. Everyone needs to understand that, look, we are in the business where, people are giving with their hard-earned money. All their aspirations, their dreams for themselves, for their near and dear ones, depend on how the portfolio does, how this investment does. They need to be aligned to that, right? People who are working in the back office, people who are working in the operations department need to be aligned to the fact that how the clients have to be serviced, right? Do not depend on just mutual fund to react to them or to kind of solve it to them. You need to do that. You need to reach out to the client. So it's very, very important that whatever your philosophy is, that everyone in the team has to be aligned to that. Then only to percolate down from top to the bottom. And you will be able to kind of realize whatever your dream or whatever your vision is for the company.
Okay. Thanks, Hemant.
Hemant, there is a question from Nitesh Savala. He writes, many times I get blank what to share with the client on a quarterly or a monthly basis, because mutual funds we say are for long term.
Well, we are not talking about only the investment. Yeah. Okay, let's understand. You build a relationship with the client. You start a relationship with the client. We also want client to become a better investor. slightly more knowledgeable, because then he will understand what you're trying to say. How does that happen? There are so many things which are happening. Suppose somebody is invested in equity funds. What is happening in the equity market? Why the markets are going down? Why a certain fund is not doing very well? It's not always that the fund has not done well. It means the fund manager has not performed. You need to kind of then explain to the client that you need to compare it with the benchmark, with the peer group. You can't compare mid cap with the large cap. You can't say that, okay, mid caps are not done well. Why this fund has not done well? So I think there are a number of things to be shared. It's a process that you kind of take the client through. Like I said, if you become a source for them in terms of knowing what is happening around, why would an investor not like to know if the markets are falling, what's happening in the US, right? How is it impacting my portfolio? So there are a whole lot of things to be discussed there. It's not necessary that we have to keep talking about only the portfolio. I'm sure you want this relationship to go beyond the portfolio, right? It's not that all the time we're talking about getting business or saying, okay, how the portfolio has done. There's a whole lot of things to be talked, sometime about the market, sometimes even beyond the markets. So I think it's important that you become a source, you share things so that they look up to you to be up to date on what is happening.
Thank you. So Hemant, I have a question. I think I've been talking to a lot of people around, and there's a question that I would like to ask you, saying that during the pandemic, just before the pandemic, and today, in the last 2 years, now it's almost 22 months that we've been in the pandemic year. Now, has something changed in your approach, in the organization approach, your approach with the clients, your communication, your processes, your dynamics? Has it changed?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, Rupa. 2, 3 things. I talked about using technology. I talked about having system and processes. Imagine a situation where suddenly there's a lockdown, right? And you're not someone who's been using technology. You're not someone who have, informed the client or told clients earlier why it is important for them to opt for online transaction. And suddenly things have come to a standstill. Imagine what would have happened if we didn't have this app, we didn't have this online transactions. Okay. I mean, imagine the kind of fall that we saw in the market, financial hardship that people had to face. And if you're not able to really do transaction, and you know that for months, there were no physical transactions that were happening. I think that reaffirmed my faith that yes, you have to be ready for any eventuality. And the best thing is to use technology for that. The second was when the lockdown happened, trust me, nobody knew how long it is going to be, how bad it is going to be. And I'm sure you will agree with me that when the lockdown was announced, we thought that for markets are going to be like this for years and it's going to be very, very tough. So the first thing that people in your team are worried about, right? People have EMIs to pay. People have, fear that what will happen to business, whether we will survive or not survive. So the first thing that I did was kind of sat down with the team and told them very clearly, I don't know how long it is going to last, but I can assure you one thing, as long as it lasts, okay, you don't have to worry about your salaries. Okay, you will be taken care of. How else do you give them confidence that they will be, when they talk to the client, that they're confident about what's happening? I mean, imagine a guy who himself doesn't know whether he's going to get salary next month is telling the client not to worry about the markets. That just cannot happen, right? Third thing is, I think important again, a lesson for the clients, what we could show them in the market, thankfully behaved the way it behaved, that look, you will see volatility, you will see deep cuts in the market, but the recovery happens and you benefit from that only if you remain inside the market, inside, you remain invested. So I think there were number of lessons that were there. And the most important thing was, I think one aspect I would definitely want to mention here, because we have been telling the clients always, we talk about emergency fund, keep that. Many people don't think, I have everything, I can take out money, what is the need? I think people realize that when we talk about a process starting with the, creating a emergency fund, people realize that. And trust me, whosoever followed that advice, it was easier for them, slightly easier, definitely, compared to others to manage this. So I think there were a lot of things. We didn't have to change too many things. Okay, it just strengthened our belief that whatever our thought process was, it works even in the worst of time. And I'm happy that client could transact. The team was kind of assured that they will continue to get what they were getting, and the clients were very happy that they got access to the portfolio, they were able to transact. So I think it worked out well. Like I said, it reaffirmed the faith in what we were doing earlier.
Oh, that's amazing. There's one more question which I want to ask you, because on behalf of a lot of people who are not asking today, but these are the questions that normally they ask, is normally when you go to a client, as you said, they are overwhelmed with the clients because they have the money and the questions they ask. So what happens is you are going with the fear in a client's premise when you sit and talk to him about the money and a money transaction. So most of the people succumb to what the client says and do exactly what the client says instead of what they believe is right for the client. For the only reason, because if they feel saying that if they don't do what the client wants, then they won't get that money and they won't be able to manage that money. So what is exactly that? How do they handle and overcome this fear of not losing the client when they go and be very confident, saying that they can sit and talk to the client about what they are here for, and what they can bring on the table for them?
Well, Rupa, I'm glad you asked me that question. I think there are two things. Sangeeta asked me about the fact that what do you mean when you say that everybody in the team has to be aligned?
Aligned.
Right?
Yeah.
This is where that comes into play, right? So if they're not aligned to what you stand for, what you want to achieve, they will succumb to that pressure. The second thing which I mentioned, that look beyond having a commission-based structure, right? If your structure is going to be commission-based, okay, there is no way the RM is going to let go of the business. Okay, so what will happen then? Then you succumb to whatever the client is saying and you accept whatever it is. Third thing, when I talk about system and processes, for example, right? We have a mechanism, for example, that someone is looking at which are the fund the client is investing in, right? I talked about investment committee. I talked about a process that we have. So if at some stage we see any fund which is coming in, okay, which we feel that will not suit the client requirement, we certainly go back to the client, okay, and explain to them. There are experienced investors who said, I understand the risk, I'm willing to take the risk, okay, and we actually, in every investment that we do, okay, the client has to kind of sign up that, okay, that I understand the risk, I know what I'm doing. So I think that's why it's very important that everyone in the team is aligned. Second is you need to look beyond commission-based structure. And the third thing is it can be very intimidating, that I said earlier in the, that when you're sitting in front of the client, a rich guy, and suddenly saying, do what I mean, and looking at the confidence of the client, people get scared. So I think that's where they need to take them through a process where you're not letting them go alone right in the beginning. Once you are experienced, once you know what your company stands for, what what is that you want to do, it becomes easier for you. And we have lost clients, we have lost business because of that. The point is, you don't want to work. Well, there is always, again, talk about how much can you do as a distributor. But the fact is, you certainly don't want to become a post office. That, okay, people are just coming in, putting their letters and then you're just sending it across. So it all depends on how you want to conduct the business. Okay, and it happens. I mean, I can share with you that there was a steep fall in the market. So one of the client came and said, so I've been told by somebody it's going to crash completely from here. Try to explain to the client, don't do this. It can happen. It will recover. He said, nothing doing. I want to do it. So we said, okay, convince that, okay, do one thing, take out half, keep half. Finally, we convinced, okay, had lunch with him. He went, still unhappy, saying that you're not letting me redeem that. But the fact is that, okay, market recovered completely. Okay, then the same gentleman came back and said, why did you allow me to redeem? Right? I don't have experience of understanding what the markets are. You should have stopped me. I said, we at least stop 50% of your investment. So I think over a period of time, you learn how to tackle these things. But like I said, these are two important things that to ensure that you don't face this kind of situation.
So I just have to give you an example this morning. I had met a client 20 years ago, 1999, 98, 99. I met him in Kolkata. And I remember talking about compounding and long-term equities and all those things. And he never invested because he never believed in it. He's connected with me today because we send a yearly review. Okay. So we send a yearly review to him. And today he connected with me after 20 years saying that, do you remember me? And he says, I want to start working with you because whatever you said 20 years back has come true. Because I remember having a discussion with him 20 years back. So what you say is right. Your principles, your culture, your focus, what you want to do is something which you can't change. Because the moment you change that, it's exactly like the fund managers. As fund managers change their philosophy, obviously there is a problem in the fund performance. In the same way, if we change our philosophy, then there is an issue because you lose your confidence to communicate with your client. That's what I have learned over the years.
Absolutely, Rupa. I think I totally agree with you. I think this is very, very important aspect of anyone who really wants to have a sustainable business.
Absolutely.
And want to take the business to the next level. I think these are very, very important factors that one should keep in mind.
Yeah. So there's one question from KK Radhakrishnan who writes saying that, what is your view on gold and SGB? I think SGB, yeah.
Well, I mean, look, I have never been a great fan of gold. Okay, I've never been a great fan of even real estate as an investment because I believe that financial products, especially the market-linked products, especially mutual funds. I've been a great fan of mutual funds. I spent all my life working with the mutual fund or maybe outside promoting mutual funds. So I believe whether it's flexibility, liquidity, whatever kind of risk profile you have, everything is available there. And you don't have to have gold or anything else just for the sake of it because everyone else is putting it.
So it's again an asset allocation based product where you can just put in a little bit into the client's portfolio. During inflationary times, gold does well. It just adds value to, but it.
I mean, I agree, Rupa, but it has to be some meaningful exposure for it to make a difference to you.
Absolutely.
The point I'm making is that even if you're thinking that in difficult time, it will help you tackle, those ups and downs, it should be meaningful. Now, for example, when we started talking about investing internationally, right? If you have a portfolio of 1 crore and investing, 1 lakh in that or 50,000 in that, what difference does it make? Except that it gives you a satisfaction that I have an international fund.
An allocation.
So anything that you do in terms of even asset allocation, it has to be meaningful. Right? And you can't just go by thumb rule there. Yeah. If you feel that 2% or 3% or 4% is going to make any difference, it's not going to make a difference. Then it has to be meaningful enough to really do what you want to achieve through that asset allocation.
Yeah. So there are two questions. I think, what's your view on the current market situation, US Fed tampering and interest rate timing?
Well, my view is, look, if you look at, there are 5 cycles that have happened since 1998. Okay, every time before the rate hike happens, the market becomes nervous. Every time the scenario looks a bit different, but I think overall what we have seen is the market remains nervous. But if you really see during the period when the interest rates are hikes are happening, the markets have invariably done well. You can see that in the last 5 cycles, I was looking at average return of, for example, Dow 55%, Nasdaq has been 100%. So I'm not saying that you can expect a similar kind of return even this time, because here you have another issue of the problem, geopolitical issue going on between Russia and Ukraine. Now, I think we have seen that in the past. We've seen issues of US and North Korea. We've seen many issues, US, China, nothing comes out. I mean, over a period of time, I think these things get resolved. So my view is that the markets can remain volatile for some more time, but I think it's a matter of time where they stabilize. Because if they're talking about hike happening from March, right, then once the hike happens, then the focus moves to completely different areas. So I think the volatility may remain for some time, but I'm not really worried about this fall, because I believe that markets will come back to the earlier levels. And maybe you will see by the end of 22 a healthy growth from equity funds.
So there's this question from Viren Patel, who writes, how much time and where has to be effectively put in a day by one MFD having no staff? What contents are you, and also what contents are you publishing in your newsletter every month?
Okay, let me begin with what we are publishing in the newsletter. Basically, it's a 6-page newsletter. The first page has I write a letter to the clients in terms of give an overview of what is happening in the market. Then there are a couple of articles. Sometimes I write articles, and there are kind of market views, debt market reviews from fund managers. almost all the CIOs and fund managers, they contribute for that. And of course, we analyze sometimes products where we feel, or sometimes we share even the portfolios of the scheme with the top holding with the prospects and the clients. So that keeps on changing. But like I said, the focus clearly is to become an important source of information for the client, and they get independent views so that they know which way the markets are going. Because once they become an investor, if you want them to become a better investor, if you want them to appreciate the effort that you're putting in, they need to understand what is happening now. Otherwise, they won't never appreciate your efforts in that. So that's what our focus is. Second thing, if you are alone, how much time you need to devote to each activity? That's what exactly I said in the beginning. Till a certain stage, you can do everything. You can do back office, you can do talking to the client. Then the stage comes when you find it difficult to handle. It becomes very difficult decision whether to focus on management, whether to focus on administration. That's where you start looking for help, whether as a back office person or as a marketing person. But like I said, even if you're alone, you want to become a source, you can still have a newsletter. You can send it by the email. You can have your own content. You can actually, the mutual fund, for example, can help you a lot. I mean, they have a lot of material which they publish. With their permission, you can actually use that. It's not that they're looking at something which you have written yourself. What they're looking at is that you become a source for them for getting information. So I think it's important to do that. How much you're able to devote, again, depends on the number of clients that you have and how you operate. But remember one thing, even if you're alone, do not ignore the need for having system and processes. Don't think that because everything is there in your mind and you're the one who is doing everything or following everything. Create that habit of having the system and processes even at that stage. So later on, when you're trying to grow, it becomes a very smooth transition.
Perfect.
Hemant, in this question, I'd like to ask that how much is the amount that an MFD should spend towards, say, building an organization? So like for systems and processes, for maybe branding, for the team building, etc. Because, finally you are just getting, there is no fixed asset, nothing. I mean, not really, for the infrastructure also for that matter. But what is the percentage of the income that one should be spending towards building an organization?
Well, look, I think, again, a very, very important question. See, there are 2-3 aspects, Sangeeta, here. Each one is at different stage of growth. Each one knows, like I said, have your own vision of where you want to be. But one thing which is very common is that use of technology. Yes, if you see, fortunately, there is not much that you need to spend for using the BSC and NSE platforms, for example. You don't have to necessarily have an app from the beginning. Okay, if you have a software and you allow your clients to kind of have a look at the portfolio and transact through the website, it's not very expensive. In terms of percentages, again, depends. I would say broadly, I would say whether it's branding or whether it's technology, maybe 10 to 15% should take care of everything. Obviously, the infrastructure, when I talk about office, I talk about staff, I'm not including that. But initially, and the major benefit of scaling up, which I mentioned earlier, is that maybe you need to commit resources upfront. But the best thing about scaling up is that over a period of time, your costs becomes constant. And once you build capacity and capabilities to scale up, your cost of acquiring per customer or servicing per customer starts going down. So broadly, I'm saying 10 to 15%, including the branding. And branding, as I mentioned earlier, is not something which is very expensive today. The using of social media, creating your own videos, is not expensive at all. So you can use these media. Even I mentioned about newsletter, for example, you can send it through the email. So I think these are not very expensive, at the contrary to what the perception is. Sometimes you may not even require 15%, maybe 10% of what you earn should be good enough. And you need to upgrade yourself. So you may have a software, maybe then upgrade that over a period of time as you grow. But you need to understand the need for using technology. And as I mentioned, it's not very expensive.
So Devin Kothari asked you a question. Sangeeta, are you through?
Yes.
Yeah. Devin Kothari, Hemant has asked a question. Can you share the name of the websites which you follow to be up to date about the current markets?
Well, I think as far as India is concerned, I follow moneycontrol.com. Okay, I mean, that's one website where I feel that whether it's international markets, whether it's domestic market, or anything happening in the industry, is something you can use that. Then of course, then you have Wealth Forum for what is happening in the industry, and then Cafe Mutual for what is happening in the industry. I think these are two important sources to keep yourself up to date on what's happening in the industry. But for markets and for economy or anything else, I usually rely on moneycontrol.com.
Thank you. Anup Mukherjee has a question for you, which talks about what are the various technological platform you suggest for MFD starting their business and has been in the business for the last few years now for marketing, CRM, client management, brand creation, and marketing, etc.
Well, I think there are a number of them available. I mean, unless and until you experience, I can't really say which is the best platform. But I think what we are using, I can share with you, we're using Fund Magic, and there's a lot of customization that we have done. And for transaction, again, like I mentioned about, you have BSC and NSE platform, which is what we use for. We've integrated that into our system, and then we are able to use that. But again, there are a number of options available. I think you need to kind of really discuss or consult people who have experience though, but I've told you the one that we are using.
Bal Sachin Gupta has a question which he talks about what kind of processes you suggest initially to build.
Well, I think initially the most important challenge for us is to acquire clients and to retain clients. So clearly the focus really has to be on the processes relating to the distribution side or the execution side, because on the client servicing side, unless and until you have built a large enough base for you to have issues in terms of client servicing, of course, that remains an important aspect, but this is the area where you need to focus on. So like I mentioned, a couple of things you need to mention, you need to focus on is one, how frequently you're going to be meeting them. And you need to be upfront telling the client whether at what frequency you'll be able to meet them. Before you commit, make sure that you are aware of what resources you have and what your capabilities are. That's very, very important. The second thing is make sure that the client gets the information that they want, because the last thing you want is that they're new to mutual fund, they're not getting information. So right from the beginning, have these processes very clear. How you're going to be talking to the client, what are things you're going to discuss with them, at what frequency you will meet them, and at how are you going to be dealing with the feedback that you get from the client. So I think initially these are three things, and then as you move along, you keep developing those and then spread it to every part of the organization.
So I have a question, last question maybe before we wound up. Hemant, how do you think saying that we can, how do you compete with the competition and we stay ahead of the competition? I think that's one thing, because I think technology has become, it's an enabler. If you look at how in the last 1.5 to 2 years, I think the retail participation has become much larger across the country, including smaller cities across India. What's happened is the awareness has built in, but there's huge competition also with regard to the online platforms which are there. So a lot of MFDs do find competition being a part of their growth not being there. What would you advise to all of them to stay above that competition? Because there is huge opportunity, which you and me know, saying that we all can sustain here, because each of us have a part to play, because 5% penetration of investments, I think this population needs a lot of us to help them, guide them. So what is your advice to all of them? How do they take it forward from here?
Well, Rupa, I totally agree with you. I think this is the apprehension that a lot of MFDs have in their mind. And I think this is one area where everyone is wondering, how do we tackle this? Two important things. One is that if you are very clear about the fact that you want to be in this business and you want to grow, you need to make sure that you do not get intimidated by the competition. I think it's very, very important, because the moment you get intimidated, okay, you kind of surrender and you start wondering, you start having self-doubts whether I can grow. I mentioned earlier also, all of us have our own strengths and weaknesses. No one better than us to understand what they are If you believe that you are sincere about it, you have a vision for your business, don't get intimidated by what is happening. The second thing is, I don't think we need to, Rupa, really very worried about the competition. Look at how the industry has grown. Look, I started my career in UTI. There was the only mutual fund in that time. From there to this stage, I've literally seen industry grow from one player to whatever number of players that we have. So you saw public sector, you saw private sector. Let me share that with you. When I was joining private sector from UTI, my friends and all were wondering whether I'm doing the right thing, committing suicide, because you don't even know whether they'll get the money or not.
Yeah.
Okay. And at that point in time, UTI was up there.
Yeah.
You see how things have changed over a period of time.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think very important that we realize that. Second thing is, look at the growth of the industry. It's been phenomenal. You used to have 1 or 2% of India's population investing in mutual funds. Today, you have reached maybe 3 or 4%. Right? Look at the number of folios. Look at the number of people who are doing SIP. Where have you? I don't think anybody would have imagined that your SIP book will cost 11,000 crore.
Yeah.
We were struggling at 3 and 4,000. See what has happened. So my view is, rather than worrying about what the platforms are doing or that others are doing, there is so much to be tapped outside. Right? All of us need to work out our catchment area rather than worrying about, look, I mean, I'm saying that what you need to survive or to grow, a very, very small fraction of what the growth of the industry is, each one of us. Correct? So I don't think we need to really worry about what the platforms are doing, what other players are doing. I think have faith in your own ability, define your own catchment area as to where you want to work. Okay, there are so many people. I'm saying just think of the fact that if you are at 3 or 4%, and if you were to go by what happened in US and other countries, where the industry is much larger than the mutual fund industry, banking industry. I'm not even saying that we will get there, in a hurry. But I'm saying, even if you were to think of a stage where you reach to 8 or 9 or 10% people of this country, right? There is so much growth available outside. Why worry about what people are doing? And we also, again, everyone has a business model.
Yeah.
Right? So something that works in good times, it remains to be seen how it works when there are bad times or difficult times. So rather than worrying about who is doing what, I think let's focus on our own catchment area. Let's focus on our own niche where we want to work. There is enough opportunity for everyone to grow. Let's not forget, like I said, it definitely will reach a level where you'll see 8, 9, 10% of India's population investing in mutual. So I think let's focus on that. There'll be enough opportunities for growth for everyone.
Absolutely. As I always believe saying that, I think the client needs us more than we need the client.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I tell you something. I just share an example of what happened yesterday. One of the client wanted to speak to me. Okay. He started investing through us, around maybe 9, 10 years ago. And we built his portfolio, helped him build that, told him what mutual funds are, everything. And he called to tell me that his daughter, who was studying in US, completed her studies. Okay. And he had created a portfolio for the studies. Okay. So not only he was able to kind of ensure that there was enough money for her studies, okay, there was still additional amount of 1.5 crore in the portfolio. Okay. So the point is, this is what gets you where you are. I think it's very, very important to ensure that you grow with the clients grow with you. Absolutely. Build up a long-term relationship.
Absolutely.
Understand that their aspirations are totally dependent on how you handle their investments.
Yeah.
And I totally agree with you. We need them. They also need us. So I think it's a teamwork. It's not something that one can grow without other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so thank you so much. It's been 1.5 hours and we don't know how this 1.5 hours just went through. It feels like just 5-10 minutes. Hearing you, Hemant, has been really wonderful. And I hope everybody on this panel, everybody on this platform heard you and they have learned a lot, and they will all implement things, processes and cultures in their businesses. I'm sure this was very, very useful. And thank you so much, Hemant, for this, for your contribution of your time and efforts. And we really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rupa. It's been like pleasure. Really
Thank you.
enjoyed
Thank you, Hemant.
my experiences with everyone. I hope it benefits in their effort in scaling up. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hemant. Hemant, there was only one question. Somebody wanted your mobile number to talk to you. I know that gentleman, he's from the South. And if you permit me, then I'll give him your number.
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead. No
Yeah,
issues.
sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful week.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.